Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Collective Clicks podcast. This is your host, Brandon Bateman, and today I'm joined by Tarek El Moussa. Tarek has done a ton of stuff in the real estate investment space, everything from nearing $1 million of revenue a month in his wholesale business to flipping real estate to having one of the most popular TV shows in the real estate investment space on HGTV. We're talking with Tarek about all kinds of things like his mindset, how his real estate career has changed, his story, and how he got started. And it's a super interesting episode. So I'll see you there. Tarek, how you doing today?
Good. What's up, Brandon? How's it going?
Hey, doing fantastic. Good to see you again. Been a minute. I'm super excited for today's episode. First, for anybody that doesn't know you or of you or doesn't know you super well, tell me a little bit about your story, like where you came from. When did you first start getting into real estate investing?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you the quick rundown. So I grew up in Buena Park, California, just normal, American family neighborhood. My parents immigrated. My mom was from Europe. My dad was from the Middle East. And I'll fast forward to 19 years old. I got out of high school. I was going to college. I was kind of lost, and I was selling kitchen knives for Cutco. And it turns out I could sell because I was actually making money. One day I lost my sales book, so I essentially put myself out of business. And I had what I like to call a defining moment. And as a real estate investor, I've actually had many defining moments. But my very first defining moment, which is, a moment in your life that changes the trajectory of your life, I was at a Washington Mutual ATM in Cerritos, California, after losing that book. And I'm looking at my ATM, and I swear, true story, I throw my head back. I'm like, damn, I'm like, what? Now what? Right? And I looked over to the right, and there was this crooked sign. It says, Wise Old Owl Real Estate School. Right? So I was like, well, wait a minute, if I can sell knives, I got to be able to sell houses, right? So that's how I actually got into real estate. And at the time, the girl I was dating, her parents were in real estate like 20, 30 years before, so they used to talk about it. But I went in with nothing. So then I got my license, and my book, Flip Your Life, just came out. It tells the very detailed story of exactly what happened. But long story short is this: I got a big deal early on, didn't know how to replicate it. I was totally broke. 6 months into the business, I was ready to quit. I was trying to sell real estate at this time. I was 20 years old. I ended up
Like
going
as an
to,
agent?
yeah, as a real estate agent, totally broke. And at the time, I broke up with that girlfriend. My parents got divorced. My mom needed money, so she rented out my bedroom. So I had to go move into her garage. So I was like rock bottom, and I had gained like 50
Oh no.
pounds. Most people get the freshman 15. I got the freshman 500. it was a it was a tough period of my life. So I ended up going to this free event thrown by this guy named Mike Ferry, who's a real estate speaker and trainer. I had never heard a professional speaker. This guy, Mike, is a genius. He convinced me I could do anything. He convinced me that I would be a multi-millionaire. So at the end, I signed up for one-on-one coaching. It was $1,000 a month. Obviously, did not have it. I had a credit card. But here's what happened. I burned the booth. What I said was this: I'm giving myself 90 days. I'm going to do exactly what my coach says for 90 days. And at the end of 90 days, if I succeed, well, I made it in real estate. If I don't, I'm going back to school. And I did not like school. I'll be very clear on that. So I tell people,
Cool.
you want to change your life, you gotta block it into 90-day block. And for 90 days, you don't think about anything but that one thing that you want. So the one thing I wanted was to make contacts. So I know that sounds crazy. So I'll tell you what we did. He said, how do you want to make your money? There's for sale by owners, expired listing. An expired listing is a house that was for sale, never sold. So I would relist it. And what happened was this: I would call from 7:45 a.m. to like 8:30 p.m. Monday through Saturday, 3 hours on a Sunday night. 90 days later, I was at the bank cashing about $120,000 in real estate commissions right around my 21st birthday, which today with inflation is like 550,000, right? So, I'm that old. So, but think about that. And here's the cool thing. And this is what I try to teach people, man. People they sell themselves out of their own success. Like, you just got to go. Like, and here's the truth. I made 120. I should have made 240. Want to know why I only made 120? Well, I didn't know what a listing contract was. I didn't know how to run comps. Did I know how to sell? I knew how to sell. Could I get the appointment? I could get the appointment. So that's how I kicked off my real estate career.
Okay, interesting. So that was still at that point as an agent, correct?
That, yeah, that was as a
Okay.
real estate agent. You want me to tell you the kind of transition?
Yeah,
Now I
I'm
got,
so curious.
all right. So calling expired listings, I did really well fast. And all the money I made, all the deals I got, I had zero marketing. I never marketed in my life. I was a cold caller. I was a cold calling machine. I was doing $500-600 a day. People would call me crazy. Oh, but I never finished my story. Here's how I did it. How I made the 120,000. I had one goal every day. It wasn't to make money. It wasn't to get listings. It was to have 50 conversations with someone that owned a house. And the rule was I couldn't go home until I had 50 conversations. So because I focused on conversations, I'm on call number 50 of the night. I say, hey, this is Tarek with Prudential Real Estate. Through you, Tarek, and they hang up on me. Do you think I'm mad or do you think I'm happy? I'm happy. That's my 50th contact. I get to go home. So my job was just to have contacts, but it turns out if you have contacts, you get clients. And if you get clients, you get money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay, so you kind of made it a way for like even the failures in the day to be contributing to your goal. That's how you like stay
yeah,
motivated for that. How long did you do that? How long can a human do 500 to 600 dials a day?
almost 10 years.
You
Yeah.
did that for
Almost 10
10
years.
years. You cold called.
Almost 10 years. Yeah. I cold called. I cold called. I door knocked. I'll tell you my schedule is gnarly. This is when I got the show. I'll tell you in a second. My gift is I'm willing to outwork everybody because, when I want something, I just want it so bad, nothing else matters. And that's really helped me get to where I am. But built a successful real estate business. I was young. Great recession hit when I was 25 years old. I was living in $1 million house, had all these fancy cars, all this crap I didn't need. Moved to this tiny little apartment, had to borrow my dad's truck with roll up windows and broken AC, and I was back to rock bottom, right? Then started getting short sales for about a year and a half. I was hopping around apartments. Man, my life was different. Like I went from driving a S500 Mercedes Brabus to like a truck that was breaking down. It was pretty rough. So I
Wow.
started seeing opportunities in the market, and I did the short sale transaction, had a first lien, a second lien, a third lien, an HOA lien, and an IRS lien, and I negotiated it for 11 months. And in the end, I got a check for $7,000. And I remember the guy that I sold it to hired a gardener, cut the lawn, hired a painter, painted the house, and like sold it 2 weeks later, made like $130,000. And that was the second defining moment in my life. And that was the exact moment I realized I was on the wrong side of the equation as a real estate investor, which by the way, I now realize I've kind of been in some aspects on the wrong side of the equation as a house flipper, which I'll explain later. But in that
Yep.
moment, I said, I'm going to be an investor. So what did I do? I do what everybody does. I picked up my phone and I started calling everybody in my phone, right? They were laughing at me. What are you talking about? You don't know what you're doing. You're too young. It's speculative, blah, blah, blah. So I finally get to the one person I knew that was actually wealthy. Like one person I knew had money. And I said, hey, Five Line is a good deal. You want to flip houses with? He goes, sure. If you find a good deal, you do the work. I'll put up the money. We'll flip houses together. And I was like, done. And that's how I got my first investor. So I was like, okay, now I got the investor. And this was all within days. Then bought my very first house at auction 4 days later, literally 4 days later. It was a condo in Santa Ana, California on King Street. Paid $115,000 for this condo. Um, and I did everything wrong. Okay. So like I electrocuted myself on video. I painted all the baseboards to the flooring. I dragged the water heater and scraped the flooring. I butchered this thing because I don't know how to do any manual labor. I am the worst, but I knocked it out of the park, start to finish, got it done in 60 days, buying, fixing, selling, and made a net profit of $34,000, which back then after the Great Recession felt like, $340 million. But here's the cool thing about it. All of that
Yeah.
was documented. Why? That about that same time that we bought that condo to flip, we went to another Mike Ferry real estate event in Las Vegas, Nevada. And this was the big one, the Superstar Retreat. So there's like 5 or 6,000 agents there. And of course, I'm all sitting in the back, just like, just hiding in the back. A friend of mine was a VP of Coldwell Banker, and one of his managers and the manager's wife had to leave the front row. So he texted me. He's like, hey, you and Christina want to come sit in the front? I'm like, all right, I'm in. So we go sit in the front. And then we're dressed nice at this event. So then at the break, all these people come up to us like, who are you guys? What are you doing up here? because we looked sharp. They didn't know I was a peon. Uh, so I talked to this one guy who I'd seen on stage talking about how he made 800 grand a year. And I'm like, man, so I'm talking to him more. He's like, well, what do you do? He's like, well, I have local TV shows in Palm Springs, California. So, people watch me showcase listings on the weekends. So I'm like, all right, well, what does that do? He goes, well, then they know me. I'm like, okay, well, what does that do? He said, then they become my clients. I'm like, oh, so you're using TV as a lead magnet. See, I'm thinking about farming neighborhoods. This guy's on TV. So then I left the event. The next night, it was, I swear, 10 o'clock at night. My ex-wife, Christina, she has 1 foot up the stairs. She looks at me. She goes, you coming to bed? And I said, no. I said, I'm going to get us a TV show. Then she starts laughing at me because I've had a lot of batshit crazy ideas. She goes, a TV show about what? And at this time, I didn't know. So I said, hold on, give me a second. Well, we just bought our first house to flip. What if we flip houses on TV? We can even call it flip or flop. Flip if we make it, flop if we don't. She started laughing at me, went to bed. So I'm such an intelligent human. I don't know if you know this about me. I went on the internet and I Googled Hollywood production companies. And it turns out if you do that, websites come up. So I just went to sites and I said, hey, my name is Tarek El Moussa. I want to flip houses, blah, blah, blah. And next morning I wake up, one of them responded, send us an email. Or send us a home video. So we did that. They loved the home video. Then we did a 2-day professional shoot. And this was all around that very first condo. So we're excited, hoping like a network is interested. Nobody wants it. Nobody's interested. I gave up on the idea. 10 months later, I'm on the golf course. I get a call. It's the production company saying HGTV wants to do a pilot. And I couldn't believe it, right? And this was summer of 2011. So we shot the pilot. And then they tell me the odds of getting a show, very slim. And if you do get one, it's going to take a long time. Literally a week later, I get a contract to flip 13 houses in 10 months on TV. That sounds exciting, right, Brandon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit tricky, though. You got to find 13 houses to flip.
Yes, there's 2 problems. I didn't have any money and I didn't know how to flip houses. The pilot was the 3rd house I had ever flipped. So I didn't even know what a hard money loan was. Like I knew nothing about the business. So then I called my lawyer. I'm like, well, if I sign this thing, like what's the worst that could happen? He's like, well, they could sue you. So I looked around my apartment for a second. I was like, they could have it. So I signed that contract. And what I did is I really focused on buying at the auctions, and I can only buy unoccupied property because on the show, I can't go and evict people, go to court. It has to be empty houses. So I'd start work. I'd work all day. I'd get home like 8:30 at night. And then between 8:30 and 10, I'd eat dinner and then I'd plan my night shift. My night shift was 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. And then I would drive all of Southern California by the houses that were going to auction the next day. And the reason I was driving by the night before was to see if anybody lived there. Was there any newspapers? Was there any overgrown grass? Were the windows shut? And based on like my visual inspection, I'd go to the auction. So now I drive from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. I get to the first auction at 9. I'm exhausted, right? My max bid's 300. So opening bid 200, 210, 220, 250, 290. I'm like 300, super excited. Then it goes 305, 310, 320, 360, 380, 400. Well, what do you need 400? How are these guys paying 400? I'm paying 300. It turns out, well, if you're a hedge fund, you have like billions of dollars in your pocket, right? But I didn't know what to do. So every day I kept the same thing. I did it for 3 weeks. It almost killed me. And guess what happened? Week 3, I bid on a property. Nobody bid on it but me. For one reason or another, I just got lucky. So guess what I learned? If I take massive action, if I show up every day, every now and then, I'm going to get lucky. And that's how I pulled it off.
That's so funny. Did you buy all 13 houses that way for the first season?
No, not all 13. And then I started learning how to go after off market and NODs and short sales and stuff like that. I mean, I work. I'm telling you, man. I work. I work. Even today, I'll tell you right now. I just went on a big run of working 17-hour, 18-hour days. It's been pretty rough.
Yeah, that's crazy. Do you like that?
No. But the reason I do what I do is so later I can do what I want. And, I'm very passionate about what I do. So right now, if I'm working a 17-hour day, I'm choosing in a sense to work that day. And a large part of that is I'm a father of 3. I'm married. I film shows and I'm so busy and I was just running out of time. So I went from, I went from waking up at 6:30 in the morning to starting work at 3:30 in the morning. So for me, what's really been magical this last year is starting work at like 3:30 to 4 in the morning and going to the gym at 7. And by the time 8 a.m.'s come around, I've done all the research of the day. I've done my thinking for the day. I've done my fitness for the day, and everybody's just getting started.
Mhm. Yeah, that's wild. So if I called you a crazy person, what would you say?
Passionate. You
Passionate.
know,
That's a better word.
yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, people ask me all the time why I do what I do. And the truth is, I get so bothered by all the negative, toxic bullshit that as humans we have to deal with all the negative people and the liars and the negative energy and the people putting each other down and limiting their abilities and telling them what they can and cannot do. So I'm here to tell the world, like, you can do anything. And I'm going to prove it over and over again. Like, I'm going to come out with a movie about my life. I know it sounds crazy. I'm going to do it. Like, all these things I'm going to do just to show someone else that they can do something, regardless of what everybody else says.
Yeah. That's wild. I could tell you're super driven. I mean, just some things
I
like
am.
most people, their cold calling career involves 100 dials a day and it lasts 3 months. The fact that you did that on the web for
Oh
10
my God.
years,
What?
that's
I
not
don't do what you
that's not just passion. That's like
watch
discipline
it.
too.
No, no, trust me, I was a machine. But like, I'm a 21-year-old kid in $1 million house driving. I had bills. Like, I was stressed. I was probably too stressed. But when you're
Yeah.
put in a position where like there's no option but to win or you're done, you grow in ways that you never thought you could. When your back's against the wall, like that's when it really
Yeah.
counts.
Yeah. That makes sense. And I have it's funny, like my story and your story are, similar in some ways, definitely like that back against the wall kind of aspect. And I agree with you, you grow a lot. One thing I struggle with more recently is, like the truth is like once you, like if you know what you're doing in a business, like your back shouldn't always be against the wall. Like at some point you have some freedom, you have some breathing room, right? So what do you do? Like I get it. Like if it's like, I got to find this house at auction or I'm going to get sued. Like I see why you did what you did, but how is it that you stay motivated today?
Hey, man, just through growth. I'm a completely different man than I was even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years, 20 years ago. And every single day I try to improve. I really, really do. I want to live this life to the best of my ability. I want to experience everything. I want to become as smart as I can. I want to become as talented as I can. I want to become as successful as I can. I want to give back to my family as much as I can. And the only way I can do all those things is if I become the best version of me. And that's kind of how I see it. So
Yeah,
that's that
yeah,
constant little voice in my head. You got your babies, you're gonna have grandkids one day. What kind of life does your family want? Like, this is what drives.
yeah. You said you're a pretty different person than you were even 5 years ago. When you look back at the Tarek from 5 years ago, if you were to give him some advice, what would it be?
Man, same advice I'd give the younger Tarek. Don't give up. Keep going, which is what I always do. And it seems to work. And I always tell people, it doesn't matter how beat up we are, how tired we are, how unmotivated, how depressed, how overweight, how drunk, doesn't matter what. We're just like a house, right? We all need a remodel. And I talk about that a lot. We all need a remodel. So house flippers should look at themselves like a project. What can we work on? How can we improve? How can we get more energy? How can we think clearer? How can we move faster?
Yeah,
And I see so
no, I
many real
totally.
estate investors, man, making so many mistakes. And obviously I teach people about this stuff at homeschool, but it's such a simple business if you just forget about the noise and just really focus. Like, what are we doing here, right? We're looking for a house, right? What are we trying to do with that house? Well, wholesale it, one, or take the house, make it nicer, right? And then sell it
Mhm.
for more money. Okay. So let's go to one. Well, how do we get the house? We got to talk to one of two people. One, people that sell those things. Two, people that own those things, right? And the more we talk
Yeah,
to, what is that going to generate? We're going to generate more leads. So now we have more leads. So now that we have more leads, well, what is that going to create? More opportunity. Now you have more opportunity, what's that going to create? More deals. So it's just about ignoring the noise and going back to the basics. Talk to more people, get more leads, da 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 da. So I never marketed in my life really. And I used to try marketing. I was terrible. Because I dropped like 10 flyers when I was a realtor and be like, nobody called, I quit.
Oh,
But
yeah, you're
so
not alone.
I've done every marketing. I mean, I think at my peak, I was spending about 700,000 a month on marketing, digital marketing, VA cold callers, podcast marketing, radio marketing, print mail marketing at volume, driving for dollars. I've done it all. I've done it in California. I've done it out of California. I've done billboard. But here's what I know. Hands down, the best leads are always going to be digital marketing leads from motivated sellers. Hands down. Um, Now, there's a cost to that, right? But there's also a huge return if you know how to treat them. So what drives me crazy is if I have a student, they're paying for leads, and I'm like, okay, did you call me? Say, yeah, I called them back an hour later. They weren't available. I'm like, what do you mean an hour later? If you're in the shower, you hop out of the shower, you better pick up that phone. You know what I mean? Like, but that's how serious I take a lead call. My team lead to answer time, like I'm not even happy with it. I think we're like at, a minute right now. Like I want it live connection because this is how humans are, especially today with social media and TikTok, the ADD world, right? So 1 second we're thinking about the house, should we sell? Let's do it. Go on the website, blah, blah. 2 minutes later, oh, Mary's here. Oh, the house. I don't want to, right? You got to
Oh,
strike hot. So the key to success in this business is very simple. One, generate motivated seller leads through outbound or inbound. And my favorite is digital marketing. Two, learn what questions to ask. 99% of people in this business have no idea how to sell, zero idea how to sell. And like they will literally double their numbers overnight if they learn how to sell. I'm going to say that again, everybody. Double your numbers overnight if you learn how to sell. And that's it. More
yeah.
leads, learn how to sell.
Yeah. Let's dig into, so I help people with the more leads thing, right? So although I'm super curious to hear any feedback you have on that, but I'm especially curious to talk about like learning how to sell. I mean, one thing that you already talked about is urgency, and it's important there. And I'm like, we're 100% on the same page there. It's, something that we are always teaching our clients, because the fact of the matter is the shelf life of an online lead compared to a cold call lead, for example, is just shorter, right? And with every lead, is it better to be faster? Yes. But for online leads, that shelf life is really, really short. But I'm curious to hear anything else that you think, like in terms of like, what are people not doing that they should be doing, or what are they doing that they shouldn't be doing to be better at selling?
Yeah. Okay. Well, outbound prospecting is a big one. So what's going on right now? We have a housing crisis. We have the world's lowest inventory, right? But what are we starting to see? We're starting to see a little bit more inventory. So what are we going to see in the future? We're going to see a lot of expired and canceled listings, right? An expired or canceled listing is Mary and Bob. They want to sell their house. They hire Michelle from Remax for 6 months. At the end of 6 months, the house doesn't sell. It's expired. So now legally you can solicit it. So what they're not doing is they're not calling them, one. And two, if they are calling them, they don't know what to say. You want to role play it with me, Brandon?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, you'll be the homeowner. And by the way, my wheelhouse is doing this as a real estate agent. I'm going to try it right now as an investor. I'm going to do my best. How's that?
Yeah, it sounds good. Let's do it.
I hear. So ring, ring, ring.
Hello?
Hey, what's up, Brandon? My name is Tarek El Moussa. I am not a real estate agent. Calling about your house at 123 Main Street. I'm actually a cash buyer, and I was wondering if there's a time I can come by tonight at 5 or 6, take a look at the house, and present you an offer.
Um,
But you're not selling
yes.
anymore. Tired of the bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a few people look at it and just haven't really been able to sell it to you. And we've gotten some lowball offers and that sort of thing. You have any idea where you'd want to be?
Yeah, I definitely have to see the house first. But it sounds like you got some lowball offers. If you had a solid offer and you sold the home, where were you going to move next?
Probably to Florida. I have some kids down there and I want to spend more time with my grandkids.
Oh, Florida is awesome. I have actually a few real estate projects going in Florida right now. So it sounds like you got family there. And how soon did you want to be there?
6 months ago,
6 months ago. Okay, well, why aren't you there? What stopped you from getting to Florida?
had to sell the house.
So you're telling me the only reason you're not with your grandbabies is because the house didn't sell.
Yeah. or, if I had more money, that'd be great. So I could keep both houses, but I got
Okay.
to sell
Well,
this one.
I mean, this is exactly why we need to get together, because the house not selling shouldn't prevent you from getting to your family. So if you give me about 15 minutes of your time, I'd like to show you how I can get you there in as fast as 7 days or as long as you need. All right. So are you available tonight at like 5, or do you think 6 is better?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. And you were so easy on me. So
I'm
easy on me.
sorry. Maybe if I had more time talking to annoying homeowners, then I would be able to be a better like.
Oh my God. But here's the truth. Okay, so like listen, I can sell. Like that's my wheelhouse. I was at the Bigger Pockets convention, and I did a live cold calling on stage in front of 500 people. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Um, but the truth about selling is this. You're never gonna convince someone to do something they're not gonna do. We're looking for a needle in a haystack. So all that means is we got to move a lot more hay. And the second, as real estate investors, we acknowledge the fact that we're looking for a needle in a haystack, we're going to accept the amount of work it takes to find that needle. And we're going to have that same mindset going into our business. And if you are hyper focused on finding that deal, you are going to find those deals.
Okay. So for you, it's a mindset thing, and it's like being willing to do the volume. It's the same thing that brought you success, cold calling 500 to 600 calls a day. It's that you just got to spend a lot of time connecting with these people, and if you keep on doing that, then you're going to get the right deals. It just takes
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah. And my favorite is digital marketing leads. When I was actually like salesman for my company, I think I was converting 1 out of 14. I had a pretty darn high conversion rate.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
yeah. So my favorite digital market. No, actually, my number one favorites are the organic leads I get from being on TV. I love those. Number two is
that's
digital
fair.
marketing lead for sure. And then three, honestly, like we're crushing it with outbound right now. We're doing a lot of deals with agents.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, I'm curious what you to hear a little bit more about the story of how you got deeper into the wholesale business. Let's talk about like so obviously there's that beginning there where you had to get the 13 houses for your show, which is a wild story. I didn't realize that you were actually like doing the show as you were learning how to do the business. I'm super curious to go look back on like some of those initial flips that you're doing. I'm sure you look back at it like thinking that you were an idiot back then.
I wasn't.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's how I am. The me from 6 months ago is always an idiot. Like I've always believed that. It's a depressing, but also really positive truth at the same time. So moving past that, I mean, tell me about like this process from being like Tarek, the guy who cold calls, the guy who puts the deals together, the guy who manages the flips, to like a real estate investment business.
Yeah, absolutely. So what happened was this. I've always been just a machine and hustled, right? Because honestly, it started when I was a kid with sport. My dad made me play baseball 7 days a week, like 5 hours. So I learned hard work as a kid. Um, but guess what TV did? It took me away from finding houses. It took me away from walking properties. It took me away from prospecting. So now I got to find all these houses and I'm short on time. So that's when I was forced to learn how to delegate, and I was forced to learn how to hire and staff and scale. So of course, at the beginning, I did everything wrong. I hired people I knew, a lot of headaches. And here's a reminder for everyone out there. You are going to get burned when you hire people. It doesn't mean you stop looking. It means you keep looking. So I always say, to find the right person, expect to be burned 3 times. And the fourth one, that's going to be the one. So again, the mindset, expect to be burned. And sometimes we get lucky, but don't get upset when you get burned, because it should be expected. That's one.
It's a volume.
It's a volume game. So to scale, I started off with, one was an acquisition guy who is Adam Lindholm, who's the president of my company, Target Buys Houses now. But back then, his first day on the job, he showed up in his Mini Cooper. I took him out to the middle of the Inland Empires. We jumped out in a neighborhood that was in foreclosure, and we went door to door for 5 hours. And I said, "This is your job." And he said, "Okay." And that's how we started. And then I got him on the phones. And then from there, I built this little team of 4, and we were just humming. And then I think the first year, I did 3, second year 18, third 46, fourth 88, and then it would just kind of grew
This
to
is number
there.
of house.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think the most I had going one time was in the 90s. But let's talk about some of the challenges, because no bullshit, it's been a rough couple years for a lot of real estate investors. And guess what? I'm one of them. But I'm gonna share with you what I did, so maybe someone can learn from this. It's just impossible to time the market. The biggest mistakes I've made as an entrepreneur was trying to time the market, making the wrong decisions at the wrong times instead of just letting time be in the market, right? Letting it go.
Yeah.
Um, but when the interest rates doubled the year before, I had a big push to scale up everything. So I brought on staff, I expanded marketing, I expanded markets. Blah, blah, blah. So I had bought 91 houses first quarter. The rates were low. They were like, 3%. Right after that, they jumped up to 7%, as you know. So then I was stuck with $700,000 a month in mortgage, all these houses, the doubling of interest rate. I'm remembering the Great Recession. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, what am I going to do now? So within minutes, I made a decision. I'm not going to buy any more houses because I already know these 91 houses right here. I already know. You don't have to tell me. I'm going to lose millions of dollars. I already know. Okay. By the time I fix them and I'm still working on them.
Yeah.
I've got left. So because I knew that, I stopped buying and I said, well, how do I offset losses? I got to bring in revenue. What's the fastest way to bring in revenue? Wholesale real estate. So overnight, I changed my business model to wholesale real estate. A few bumps in the road at first because it was a new model for us. But they
Hard
are,
time too, because other buyers started to get skittish at that time. It's kind of like the worst time for wholesale in
yeah,
recent history.
yeah, no, I know, but and today things are going good. I think we put like 800,000 up on the month on the board this month, or last month, not last month. Sorry, we're in May, so it's pretty good. I expect us to be at 7 figures a month consistently on the wholesale fees. We're still scaling up flipping, not as much, mostly just for the show, But outside of that, I run my company, Homeschooled by Tarek. I have my flagship company, TEM Capital. We're buying commercial real estate. We're syndicating. Just bought an awesome deal in Texas, 405 unit. Previous owner was into it at 100,000 a door. We're picking it up for 66 a door, so 34%
Oh,
discount. Yeah, yeah. So the deals are coming. The deals are coming. So if you ask me what I'm looking for today, I'm not looking for houses. I'm looking for monster deals where instead of making 100 grand, I can make 10 million, and I want to flip
yeah,
them. I'm gonna flip
that
them
makes
apart.
sense. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of distress in that side of the industry right now.
Yeah, I think coming soon.
Yeah, fair point. Okay, very cool. So if I'm understanding it right, you kind of like scaled up the business and then you started to really scale kind of at the worst time. And then right then interest rates went up. And then you change your whole business model to wholesaling. And
Yeah,
today it's mostly wholesale.
yeah, yeah. I mean, some of these houses, we're in California. Like I was selling this one lost 638,000. This one lost 690,000. Shit. But it's okay. You want to know why? I washed it all out. I didn't lose anything. My wholesale fees offset the losses from those flips, washed it clean. Now, down to my last two old ones. We're officially profitable again. I'm getting ready to scale back up.
Wow. That's talk about your back against a wall. Like
Yeah,
you said, that's when you work the best.
yeah, that's what
That's
we're
probably,
doing.
yeah.
But
So what does the future look like then? Like what do you want to do over the next few years?
man, so many different things. I'm going to continue, um, continue being on TV. I enjoy that. I like entertaining people. I like creating good shows. I'm working on a few new ones right now that are a lot of fun. When it comes to Target buys houses, I'm still looking to scale that. I want to continue scaling that across the country. I'm thinking about maybe offering, licensees of the brand because here's the cool thing about my brand. If you put my brand against any other marketing, I'm gonna get more calls. I'm gonna have higher conversion because people have been watching me for 15 years, right? So I
Yeah.
want to be able to scale that, and I want to get back to the communities. I want to teach people how to do this. I want to create free programs. I want to do things for underprivileged kids, like just anything you could possibly think of. I'd really like to get involved with and just give back as much as I can and really go as far as I can.
Yeah. That's super cool. Um, one thing I appreciate about you is this like it seems like you can take a beating, but it doesn't matter what happens. Like you have this like this I don't know if positivity is the word, as much as like resilient.
Hey, bro, here's what it is. Here's the
Yeah.
truth, man. I have ADHD, which means I'm actually an overly sensitive person. I'm like, I get my feelings hurt sometimes, but I'm so used to it. Like I've just gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. And the more like shit you deal with, the stronger you get. It's like scars, right? And then they get bigger, bigger. And then I think, man, when something bad happens today, I think about my face plastered all over TMZ. I think about paparazzi chasing me on the freeway. I think about crying in the bathroom for a year. Like, my life's good today. So one of the big things that makes me so happy today is reflecting. I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. That was a
Wow.
rough period of my life. Yeah, I feel season 2 of Flip or Flop. I found out I had thyroid cancer at the beginning, and I also found out I had testicular cancer. The network called me, said, "We understand the show's over." I said, "This show's not over. You're gonna film my ass wheeling into those surgeries." And they did. And if you watch, yeah, they did. If you watch season 2, you can actually
Wow.
watch me gain 60 pounds on TV. And then they did a surgery. They sliced my neck open. I had like tube hanging out. 1 week later, I was back on camera working. I was talking like that. But nobody could say I didn't give it 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. Well, it's been super cool to learn about your story and what brought you here. Um, is there anything I should ask you that I haven't?
Why am I not working with you yet?
I don't know. Why aren't you working with us? Well, we kind of work. I don't know where we're standing.
I was gonna say, it sounds like we have something to talk about.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, after the show. Thank you, Tarek. Appreciate you a ton. And for everybody else listening, I'll see you next week.